Hello and welcome everyone to a very special episode of the Nonsensory Podcast where we discuss FX and Hulu's new miniseries, Devs. The show recently ended its run and we're here to discuss our thoughts in sort of like a impromptu, informal mini review, back and forth kind of thing. Before we do that, you can follow us on Twitter at Nonsensory1 and Facebook at Nonsensory Podcast. You can also view this episode on YouTube by searching Nonsensory Podcast. Please like and subscribe. And we're also on iTunes and Spotify. Just search Nonsensory Podcast. With that out of the way, let's get right into it. Joe.
What's up, Evan?
Hey, man.
Hey. Holy crap.
Oh, my God. So, the newest episode just premiered Thursday, right?
Yes.
So it's pretty fresh in our minds. And, I mean, we're both kind of in agreement that we just want to go back and watch the show again.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a rewatch. It's one of those shows where you feel like if you go back, you're going to pick things up you didn't grab before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my man. This show is a mind F. I'm going to leave it right.
I thought you were going to say like an MF and mind F.
Both of those. Wow.
So, obviously, this is going to be a spoiler cast, basically, where we're going to get into all the nitty-gritty of it. But we can give you a spoiler-free kind of impressions, give you a little synopsis, tell you a little bit about the show if you haven't heard about it, and you're just like, wow, I really like this Evan and Joe guy. I want to listen to what they think about this show because they're so smart, which is most of you out there, let's be honest. So... to start out, you know what? I'm going to kick it to you, Joe. Do you want to give the synopsis? Just a brief idea of what the show's about.
The entire show?
Okay. Let's do the premise, and then why don't we get into like our thoughts of what they do, good and bad, on the show, and then we can get into more heavy spoilery talks.
Okay. I'm just going to pull up what Google has. Devs is an FX limited series that focuses on a young software engineer named Lily Chan who works for Amaya, a cutting-edge tech company based in Silicon Valley. After her boyfriend, Sergey, is apparent... Sorry, tiny print. After her boyfriend Sergey's apparent suicide, Lily suspects foul play and begins to investigate. She quickly realizes that all roads lead to Forrest, Amaya's enigmatic CEO, and Devs, the company's secret development division. In Lily's quest to discover the truth, she uncovers a technology-based conspiracy that could change the world. Okay.
That puts it pretty succinctly. Yeah,
I think, but it also is really weak for what the show really is.
Oh, yeah.
It does not even begin to like scratch the surface of all the just the juicy meaty underbelly.
You gotta let that meat rest. You want to get them meat juices inside of the meat. You cut it and it runs all out. Sorry. We just made food too, and now I'm just like thinking about meat. I let the meat rest. Sometimes I tell that to my wife. Let the meat rest.
Okay. So, we touched on this a little bit in the last bit of our first episode, but we're bringing it back because we didn't finish the entire series, and we said we'd kind of leave off there and see what we thought of it when it was over.
Yeah, I mean, with a series like this, I think it's important to not give your opinion fully, especially because it's such a short series. There's only 8 episodes.
Yeah.
So, we saw, or at least I saw up through 6 episodes the last time that we had a discussion about it. And, if you're going to take basically 2 episodes of an 8-episode series that I haven't watched,
a whole quarter,
I could have missed, something could go sour in those last 2 episodes where I dislike the show or something like that. But that is not the case with Devs. High quality throughout.
Oh, man.
I will say.
There are some weird musical choices.
That was the first thing that I was going to bring up. It's weird that we're talking about a show on TV, which is a visual medium, and the first thing that sticks out to you is the music, because it's just like such an integral part of the show.
Some of it is like, it's perfect. It hypes you up. It's like, wow, this is ominous. And I don't agree with you that it's over the top. Like, I know you've said before that you think they kind of take it too far. Like, everything can't be this important. And I disagree. I think they played it really well. It's just, there's a couple of songs where it's like, they're very weird.
I'm talking, like, okay, for the most part, the music is great and warranted, and it doesn't stick out too much, but there are some parts, like, there are just, like, one or two instances in one or two episodes that are just, like, grating for, like, a couple seconds, and I'm just like, ah!
Yeah,
you know?
Okay, I absolutely agree then.
Yeah, there's,
okay.
It feels like the psycho wee thing is like, it felt like that, but if they did it for like 45 seconds too long, you know, and you're like, I got it, guys. This is actually starting to hurt my ears now.
I absolutely agree, actually.
But
that's probably the only negative I think I can sum up for the whole show.
Yeah. I don't really have too much to criticize the show on. A lot of the performances are really great.
Okay, that being said, we haven't gotten into spoilers yet, but so how do you feel about Lily now, having seen the whole thing? Because I know that was something that you were a little bit down on before.
So I like her as a character. I said that her character is a bit one note, in that she has the same, like, very, like, distanced, but yet also, like, I don't know what it is. I don't see a whole lot of range in her performance as, like, the actress herself. Like, I just didn't see. A lot of times she was either just, like, completely crushed or kind of confused.
She plays a very stoic character,
mm-hmm.
which we're not used to seeing. We're used to the over the top, the over actors.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going a bit far, but you know what I'm getting at there.
Mm-hmm.
Where she's very stoic.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I kind of think it works, the reason I think that it actually works is because they do show that bit with her dad where, no spoilers there, but they do show that bit with her dad where she's being brought up and you kind of get the impression that she's being raised to be kind of just more of a thinker, more distant, calculating kind of person. Right,
yeah. She seems, yeah, that's a good point. They bring up her dad, and it's very much like the Japanese traditional, or sorry, they're Chinese in the show. But it's that very Asian kind of, don't get so emotional. You gotta stand there and be like the strong, kind of thing, and so she doesn't have like, I guess that was one of the things that kind of got to me about her performance was that there were only, she was either like very distant, or very stoic, or she didn't react a whole ton, or she was, that showed her be like emotional, but it wasn't like as much as I would think would happen from somebody that just went through what she's going through. Like, she had her struggles with what was going on, don't get me wrong, but it always seemed like she was more like questioning what was going on than reacting to it.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Like, I felt like she would have more of a emotional breakdown more often because of all the stuff that's happening to her. Like, it seems like it would just crush her, and she just kind of was just like, oh, okay, I get it, I don't know, but
I think
go on.
I think her character was perfect for the role. It is a bit jarring, I think, because we're used to seeing the other side where it's everyone just reacting, but I actually think that for her character and for the role that she plays to the story, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That distant, just thoughtful, like she's in her headspace all the time, is the impression that I get. It's not that she's not feeling these things, but it's that she is. It's all inside, all in her head, and outwardly she's very controlled.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of, in my opinion, it actually makes her seem dangerous. Do you get that kind of?
Well, yeah, it seemed like she wasn't going to get too caught up in her emotions to be able to think clearly.
Yeah.
So she seemed like a bit more formidable than you would think. Less prone to like easy mistakes.
So you get a little bit of that, like you can tell right away, like, oh, she's in over her head. You do get that feeling where it's like the pressures against her are overbearing. She's way in over her head, but it makes her feel like, at the same time, instead of having her be this emotional person, this delicate flower, she's, instead she seems like, okay, I'm gonna roll with these punches.
Yeah,
I can take it. What do I need to find out to handle myself before?
She seemed very determined, is what I'll say. Like she was completely shaken by what happened. And then at some point it seemed like her character was like, I'm going to find out what's going on with this, and that was her whole drive was to find out what happened and to get revenge, kind of. Or at least bring them to justice.
Yeah, I don't know about revenge, but definitely I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely elements of like self-preservation and like what's going to happen to me. But I would say that I liked her as a heroine in terms of like if you're going to describe her as a hero.
I absolutely I think this is a very, if I'm looking at it like from a modern day feminist kind of look.
Yeah.
If I can. She's a very strong character, and I really appreciate that they made her this. She's not a crybaby. She's not a typical female. No, she's a very very strong heroine. Even if it's like, because you can pull those characters off with men and no one questions it. The stoic, distant, unfeeling guy.
Yeah.
And no one questions that.
Yeah, but I also feel like we're getting away from that on the men's side, too. Where you see more flawed, emotional men's characters that aren't so stoic because it's not realistic for them to be that stoic all the time. Because nobody is that stoic. So
I'd agree with that.
If I see it from a woman's character, I'm like, yeah, it's cool that she's basically like Clint Eastwood from freaking some old Western. But at the same time, like, we don't do that anymore because nobody does that, So I don't know. I could have used with a little bit more of her reacting to what was going on instead of just like taking the information in and accepting it.
I'll give you that point.
And the thing about it is like her character seems like so removed from emotion, kind of like the way that Forrest and Katie are. Where Forrest,
that's weird.
Forrest is like, you can tell he's like in touch with his emotion, but he's basically like, he's already analyzed his emotion and now he's kind of numb to it, and it just kind of is a fact.
Okay.
To him, and the same thing with Katie, where let's
pull back.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get into that, because I think there's a story beat to that.
Yeah.
But before we launch into that, Forrest's character, okay?
We talked about we talked about Lily. Let's talk a little bit about
Lily is Sonoya Mitsuno. I don't know exactly how to say that name. Sonoya Mitsuno?
Yeah, maybe Mizuno, but yeah.
Now, Nick Offerman, Forrest,
the
CEO. He's like the not Tesla. What's his name?
Elon Musk?
Yeah, thank you. He's like the Elon Musk character, only if Elon was a lot more, even loonier.
See, that's the weird thing, is I don't find him to be a weird character. No, I feel like he's just very traumatized and in denial. And he's also like, when we see him for the first time, he already knows that this dev system exists, right? He already knows the power that he has. And so he's like, it's that weird thing where like he has this knowledge juxtaposed against his own trauma. And he's using this ridiculous technology that they have to kind of try to take care of his trauma. And I don't know, he seems to be like very much expository, where he, like, we get his story and then we get the story of Dev's, and he's just kind of like, yeah, this is what I do. And like, this is the nature of the universe, and this is what I'm trying to do. And like, he's very certain in his belief system.
Right.
And it's kind of, I like that they have him as that character that's kind of juxtaposed against all the questions that they're raising. And like, you're not sure if at the end he's going to actually be as sure as he is.
He's very self-assured. Yeah. He's very, Johnny on the spot isn't the word I'm looking for. He's just really, it's okay. So Nick Offerman, The Office, Ron Swanson, that I'm sure
Parks
that's
and
how,
Rec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I say?
The Office.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I apologize.
They're derived from one another.
I know. That's bad.
You're good.
But everyone knows Nick Offerman as him. Okay.
Mm.
And then the only other thing that I know him from is that there's another Hulu, I think it's Hulu show, where they like build stuff. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh yeah,
Making It,
I think is what it is. Yeah, I think you're right.
which is fantastic. But all he does is he just tells joke with that other Parks and Rec lady, who I don't know her name for some reason. It's not coming to me.
Oh, Amy Poehler.
Yeah. So you don't see him as this kind of dark guy, but he's so very, my goodness, this guy can act, man, and he's so dark, and it's just like a whole different side to him as an actor that I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
And his performance was brilliant. There's these moments where he's just like, you see him doing things that you're like, I can't see that. I can't see Ron Swanson. And then like that whole Nick Offerman, that whole him as he disappears and all you see is the role. You see Forrest, and it's like, because you don't get that at first because he is that character normally,
Yeah.
But that just fades away. I think after like 3 episodes, that's gone. You're like, you don't even see it anymore.
So the weird thing is that I watched a episode of the show where they eat chicken wings, Hot Ones, with Nick Offerman on it, and they did an interview, and he just seems like the coolest dude.
Mm-hmm.
And he also seems like a guy that you could really just like sit down and talk to, and he has some like interesting like opinions on life, and he's got kind of like his own philosophy and stuff on things.
I'm going to have to watch this.
And I felt like because I watched that, I was a little bit closer to this change that he had in character, because in the show, he kind of serves as like, at the start, he's kind of like mentor a little bit. Like he's taking Sergey under his wing, and, he's like showing him this new part of their company that he's never seen before. And it all seems like very, there's no sinister plot at that point. He just seems like the CEO who knows a bunch of stuff, who wants to open this kid's world to better things, right? And then it quickly turns away from that. But still, you're still grounded in his role as like that father that lost his daughter and his wife. And even like when they're sitting on the porch and him and Jamie are talking,
Hold that. I think we should put that behind the spoiler
the
part.
spoiler part. Okay, do we want to just get into spoilers? Because it's pretty hard to talk about the characters without the spoilers.
One more, because I think it's important. We're going to cover the main characters before we launch into spoiler, because
we want to talk about Katie. Katie, okay.
Because you talked about her. I think there's a reason behind their distance and the way that Forrest and Katie's characters, there's a reason why they're where they're at, but we can get into that. But Allison Pill, I think that's her
That
name.
is her name.
Yeah. How did you feel about her acting?
I hated her character at first.
Oh, yeah. She is there to be despised.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's really impressive that I actually started to kind of like her character at the end.
Really?
Yeah, I could just understand, because like I saw her relationship with Forrest blossom into this thing that you didn't think it would. I always thought that they would just be, she was doing her research with the help of Forrest's funding. Forrest was using her to help further his research.
Use.
Yeah, they had like a mutual, they were helping each other out kind of thing.
I still kind of think that's what it was. She just ended up emotionally attached. Because even them, that's where we're walking a border here. Okay.
I will say that she plays creepy very well.
Oh, yeah.
Like
I thought the acting was on point, but her character is just so hateable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. And that's the tough thing is like, when you watch shows like these and you get a hateable character, you're like, I hate that character. Why would I want this? Why is this character on this show? Because I hate them so much. And it's like, no, that's the point. You need somebody to hate in these kind of things.
Yeah. I think it's about time. It's about time to launch into it. If you
okay,
with me.
Yeah, let's get into the spoilers. Because it's really hard to not talk about spoilers and then get into the arcs of these characters and stuff. So.
If you don't want it spoiled, it is worth watching. Go watch it. You can come back.
Oh, it's absolutely worth watching. You should definitely just shut this off and go watch it right now.
Yeah.
And then come back and listen to us talk about it, because you're going to be like, yep, I agree. This show's fantastic.
It's 8 episodes. It's not a big deal. And it's awesome. It is so good. Okay. So we're going to get into it.
Yes.
All right.
You start.
So I've been alluding to why I think their characters are the way they are. It's come up a couple times. The reason I feel like Forrest and Katie are so detached from their emotion and the way they handle things, at least for a while. Like, obviously, Forrest is scarred, emotionally scarred from losing his wife and daughter. I mean, he's to the point that he names the company after her, has a giant creepy statue that looks like her.
Yeah.
Which, wow, is that thing like satanic looking?
Yeah, it's really freaking creepy.
Yeah.
At some point, it started to be funny to me, though.
Yeah, I was laughing by the end.
Like at the start, you're like, what's the story with this place? What does this giant kid statue have to do with anything? And then eventually it was like, oh yeah, he built it because his daughter died. But now it's just weird every time I look at it.
Okay, if you worked, before I get back to my point, if you worked at a place like that, her face is plastered all over doors. There's a giant creepy statue. Like, he's this dark, brooding, mysterious figure. At what point do you not look at yourself and go, should I be here? Like, this is really freaking creepy.
I don't know. Do you think if like Elon Musk had a giant statue of his mom at SpaceX, do you think people wouldn't want? Well, I don't know. Maybe she died. I don't know. But she died in a plane crash. I have no idea. I don't even know if Elon Musk's mom is alive. But
if not, then we're really sorry.
But yeah, like if on the campus of Microsoft there was just like a giant, statue of Bill Gates' daughter, do you think people wouldn't work at Microsoft? Like, I don't know.
Well, no, but I'm just saying her picture's everywhere. Like, at what
at
point
some
do
point,
you not think it's creepy?
At some point, you're thinking the guy's like obsessive.
Yeah.
And has been.
I'm not saying you'd quit, but like you'd be like, man, this is really weird.
That's fair. But then again, they also don't really show like what people think of Forrest outside of like him being kind of a
enigmatic. Like,
yeah, and it doesn't seem like too many people at Amaya work directly with him outside of the devs team. So like whenever Sergey gets that meeting with him at first, he's like all freaked out, like, oh man, like it's a big day. I'm going to go meet with the guy, so it seems like he's probably a little bit removed. So it might even add more to like the what's going on with this guy kind of thing.
I just think the point that I was going to get to that we kind of went off, Forrest and Katie have seen everything happen already. They broke their own rules. So the spoiler concept behind what's going on, since we can get deeper into the synopsis.
Yeah.
They have a quantum computer in which they can put in the entire inputs in the entire universe.
Yeah, it's just massive amounts of data, like ridiculously massive amounts of data that they've put into this computer.
Basically, it's laid out in the show. If I can roll a pencil across a table, if I can say exactly what the inputs are on the pencil rolling across the table, I can tell exactly where the pencil's going to go, when it's going to stop, what side's going to face up, etc.
Yeah.
Okay, if you can apply the inputs across the entire universe, then you can know what's going to happen in the future because all the inputs are determined. It's a very deterministic idea.
Yeah.
Now, it works. They build this computer, they put it in the inputs, they actually extrapolate, it works. They can see infinitely into the past, they can see into the future, but the thing is, they actually hit a point in the future that they can't see past.
Correct, yeah.
Forrest and Katie's characters are so distant because they're not seeing anything they haven't seen already. And the reason you finally get emotion out of Katie's character at the end is because she's finally seeing something that she hasn't already watched 100 times. She's actually being able to react to something that's actually happening.
You mean at the very end of the
yes,
show?
At the very end.
Like when Forrest and Lily plunge to their death.
Yes. Which, okay, I predicted that she would do something, like that she would make a choice. I knew that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's kind of like, well, obviously.
Well, yeah, and like before that even happens, she's sitting there watching with Forrest what happens. So then, like, you're thinking after you watch that, of course they're not just going to play that out how it happened, because that would be pointless. Why would we watch the same scene twice?
Well, now why? I think they could have pulled it off if they did that, but we don't. They could have done that and had it work. But they didn't.
Well, right, because thematically, I think they were trying to go with the universe isn't deterministic, right?
Stuart. Yeah, that's...
Like, because both Lily and Stuart made a choice. You know? Like, they didn't see that Stuart was going to be the one to drop the elevator.
Right.
They also didn't see that Katie would make that different choice. Because their model predicted it out that she would always do that. She would always shoot Forrest in the face, and then they would lose vacuum seal, and the elevator would just drop. And they would both die. So to me, that's basically saying, like, yeah, the universe isn't as deterministic as you think. People still do have free choice.
So here we get back to episode 5, I think. The whole Lyndon comes up with the theory of the multiverse. We have to account for different multiverses and decisions and things and blah, blah, blah. And he puts this in, and all of a sudden he finally gets results out of the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And Forrest says at that time, you can't do that because then you're not sure if that's our universe.
Right.
Which is massive but obvious foreshadowing. But the thing is, unless quantum mechanics is something that you do all the time, you're probably not following closely enough to be like, oh, I know what they're getting at.
Right, yeah.
But what he's pointing out at that time is that what they're watching isn't their universe. Lyndon opened a window to watch a universe.
Yeah.
And it follows this universe close enough. But Forrest and Katie seem to lose sight of that because they're so convinced that this universe is going to end at this point. Or, well, not that it's going to end, but they can't see the choices past that point.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you actually watch if they were watching the same universe, then the point at which it would stop being accurate. Okay, so they can't see past that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Then it would have stopped when she chose not to shoot. it wouldn't have been able to see past that point because that's the decision that she made.
Yeah.
But instead it sees a few seconds beyond that.
Right.
So they're actually watching a different universe. You see what I'm getting at?
Well, what
here?
they've been watching the entire time isn't the actual universe that they're in, because Lily did decide to not shoot him.
Exactly.
And how it played out is how it played out. And what they watched before was how
one of the possible
how one
choices.
of the possibility, but they were convinced the entire show that was the only way that it could have happened, that's the only thing that they were seeing was their actual universe, right?
To the point that they even talked Lyndon, Katie's character talks Lyndon into, we already did say spoilers, into jumping off of a dam.
Yeah.
To her death. Where if she would have never said any of those things, Lyndon would have never jumped.
Right.
She literally talks her into killing herself.
Yeah, she puts her on the edge of the railing, says, "Put your arms up." And who knows? In some universes you might live, in some you might not. And then they show her falling repeatedly after that happens. And it makes it seem like, that she was going to fall in every universe, basically.
Right.
Which I don't know if that actually means that. That's the thing with these multiverse. Like. That's the thing with these multiverse shows is you're like, it's so hard to say definitively what happened or what could happen because there's universes where stuff couldn't have happened.
The final episode. Okay, no. Okay, so we were talking about Katie and Forrest's relationship, and I stopped you because I stopped myself because I was about to get into something that happens. You were talking about their relationship and their mutual use of each other, and I don't think it ever went beyond just mutual use, because as far as they're both concerned, it's kind of like he still loves his wife, and she's just kind of in it for, I don't know. I think the sex is just a thing for them.
I don't know. They're laying in bed in the last episode, or maybe it's the episode before last. I can't remember exactly where it ends. But they're laying, and he basically admits that he kind of loves her, and that
when did that?
She kind of after they leave, right after Jamie and Lily leave. They're laying in bed, and then they're just kind of cuddling, and he just like says, "Hey, I kind of really like you," and stuff like that. And she says the same thing.
I don't remember that.
And it seems like they're actually kind of falling for one another, like they're actually kind of in love. Which to me is also kind of, I think that also kind of hints that maybe the universe isn't exactly how you would perceive it, because like they know how this all ends. So they should both know that their romance is pointless, and yet they're still taking part in it. And it's not like, and again, I guess you could just say that they've seen that this is how their relationship is going to go. So why fight it? Because they have seen the future. So they should have seen themselves like cuddling in bed and stuff like that, right?
Right.
But
I don't remember them saying that they liked each other and stuff. I don't remember that happening.
Yep.
I have to go back and rewatch it. I'm going to anyway because it's that good. But
well, that's the thing, though, is like for me, it's just like if that love can exist in a deterministic world where it shouldn't make sense because it shouldn't matter because you've already seen that Forrest dies. But
the argument for the playing devil's advocate here, because I'm not a very deterministic person. I don't agree with a lot of the premises.
No, it's a very cynical way to look at it. It's very cold and scientific and data driven and all that stuff.
But to play devil's advocate for that side, that actually just it further exemplifies the human condition that we just still feel. You're still in it. You still have to experience these things, and so you can't deny emotion. Okay, you can like you can tell yourself all you want that pain is just nerves talking to the brain, but that doesn't stop you from feeling pain.
Right.
Pain is real.
I really liked, because kind of at the end, you kind of got the feeling from Katie that she like loved him, but knew that it couldn't happen, and that she still, like, he still at the end he chooses like, no, put me in the simulation. I want to be with my family. And so it's kind of like reinforcing the idea that like they have a thing, but also this is what, and I feel like this was Katie's whole thing throughout, was that even if she did feel something for him, she had to have like in the back of her mind this feeling that he was always doing this for his kids. The driving force of this was so he could go back and see his wife and his kid.
The thing is, at the end, he didn't ask to be put in the simulation. She said, "You realize what this means." And that's when he kind of like it looked to me like he had this like aha moment where he was like, "Oh, wait, you're right." They didn't say so much, but he's like, "Do it."
Yeah.
And then she puts him in the simulation. Which,
well, and I mean, at that point, what other recourse do you have? You know, he's either dead or he's in the simulation. So why not put him in the simulation, right? From her perspective, like, what are you going to do? Just say, well, no, and then she's just dead. Or you could at least have him in the simulation. Maybe you can go and visit him or something. I don't know.
How do you feel about the way they go back to the first episode? It's so jarring. When I was watching it, I had such a mind trip, because they put you back to the very beginning of the very first episode for like a minute, and like for a while I was like, this is the end. The end of the show is just they're going to show you the beginning, and it's like a loop. Was what I was convinced was going to happen.
Yeah.
And they show the beginning, and you're like, what the? Wait a minute. They're looping the universe. They're playing everything over and over again, because you feel like everyone's already seen everything. So how many times have they done this? Is kind of the impression. That's where I thought they were going to go. Was everyone's lived this moment.
This is a cycle that's going to continue, kind of thing.
Yeah. Everyone's lived this moment. They're going to keep living this moment until someone does something different. And but instead, Lily finds Forrest. And Forrest is just kind of like, hey, isn't this great?
Yeah.
You're actually dead, and so am I, and we're essentially in heaven.
Yeah. It's weird because they like, it seems like he was perfectly fine trading off actually being alive for the simulation.
But it's exactly like he says. Do you get all the feeling? It's all of the inputs. Everything is there. It's all accounted for. It's reality.
Yeah, but then you have to live with that information.
The only difference between that and reality is that you know it's not.
Right, but that's a huge part of it, man. If you're going through your entire life from the age of like however old Lily is in that show, like 20-something, and you're going through knowing that not only is there a multiverse, but you died in another multiverse, and your boyfriend is actually a Russian spy, and you're basically living in a simulation. That's a lot to live with, right?
Dude.
Would you rather choose to live in ignorance, or would you rather have that crushing knowledge? That's how I looked at it.
I would have rather, if I was in her shoes, okay, so we walked through everything to that point, I would like to say that I would have preferred to have never found Forrest, to never know how it is that I was there, because then at least I'd have the plausible deniability to say I was dreaming.
Oh, like if she woke up again? Like the final episode, like the end of the final episode, she woke up again, Sergei's there, and then just Amaya's not there?
No, what I'm saying is everything happens the way it did, but instead of finding Forrest, she just goes about her day. Mm-hmm. She wakes up the next day and she could say, you know what, that was just all a dream. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And that's kind of how it's framed, right? Like when they cut away, she's just at her window and she's like, "Ugh," and she kind of like snaps back to reality. And you're not sure, like, oh no, are they going to play it as like it was all just a dream? And then it kind of is like that, except
she knows that it's not.
Right.
That's exactly my point. If she never ran into him, from a viewer perspective, it would have been real letdown. But I'm just saying, if I had to live it myself, I'd rather have never run into him, because then I was just asleep.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That's true. But in order for that to happen, then Amaya wouldn't even exist in that universe, right? Because Forrest would have to exist in order for Amaya to exist. And her boyfriend, she's back with her boyfriend, and he works there, and he goes there. So it is different that the devs place isn't there at all.
Well,
because there's no purpose for it.
Right. That's right, because the whole field's empty.
The whole field's empty. He's just there with his wife and kid, because he never would have built devs because his wife and kid didn't die.
That's a bit mind-breaking, isn't it?
Well, no. I mean, I think that it just, it makes sense. If devs isn't there.
If devs isn't there in that universe, then there's no opportunity for them to be reinserted into the machine to begin with.
Right, exactly.
It's kind of... Well, it's not like Time Machine, where the Time Machine never gets invented, and so that you can't have possibly traveled back in time. Kind of mind-breaky stuff, but yeah. It's very close to that. Okay.
What did you... Hang on. Before we move on, what did you think about Stewart's decision? Because
what the hell is wrong with him?
They get past... Yeah, this is the big sticking point for me. He basically just kills them because he doesn't think that something like devs should exist. But at the same time, she's got a gun to his head. And she's going to take him... She's not going to kill him.
No, because she already threw the gun.
Well, right. So she throws the gun, and she's not going to kill him. But at the same point, do you think that devs just continues if he doesn't do that? Like, I think that devs was over. And he didn't have to just, like, straight up kill Forrest. Like,
the problem is devs isn't over. The problem is that his action had no effect at all other than killing them. Okay, because even if you say that he was trying to stop devs from being a thing, okay?
Yeah.
The end, Katie is showing the governor, what's-her-face?
I think she was a senator.
Yeah,
but they're showing her,
They're showing her devs, which is obviously still operational, and Katie asks her, make sure this stays running. That's all I want.
Right. So that's what upset me about his decision, is that he doesn't want...
It didn't affect anything.
Right. So it seemed like pointlessly killing them.
I don't understand. I think he is in the same belief as Katie and Forrest. Sorry, I bumped the table. He's in the same belief as Katie and Forrest that everything has to follow a certain path. And when he saw that Lily was breaking the path, he said, no, it has to follow. This is the way it has to happen.
Well, right. But if you're somebody that believes that the world is deterministic and that it was going to happen, and you see her break that, how do you not have the same reaction that both Katie and Forrest had, where they're like, whoa, we're completely wrong? How do you not see that and go, oh, I was wrong too, and instead go, I'm just going to make it happen anyways?
Because I think that's actually, philosophically speaking, I actually think it's a very
real quandary.
That's a very rare quality for a person to actually have.
I had the R and the Q correct.
For them to actually... I'm speaking about myself and everybody. Uh-huh. When you have an idea in your mind, it is insanely hard to actually let go of thinking that a certain way.
Well, I think that I could say I get his decision if I'm going. I am convinced that this was supposed to happen, and if I'm somebody that's seen that this is going to happen, and you think that Forrest is just messed up, and you want him to get what he deserves,
I kind of feel like that had something to do with it.
Right.
It's like, I'm going to kill this guy because he's too powerful.
Yeah.
if she won't do it, I'll do it.
Well, right. But at the same time, I can't understand why he would think that devs would continue after this whole scenario.
Yeah, because now you're putting that power into the hands of who knows who.
Right.
Now you're putting that power in the hands of the government?
Well, right, yeah.
The government's never done anything.
He didn't want devs to continue, so then he kills Forrest, and then it continues anyways because Katie. And I don't know. It just seemed like a weird switch in his character that he would just straight up like murder them both. I don't, because he seemed like so. Did he find out about Lyndon's death?
It's possible. Remember, he's able to see all that stuff the same way they are.
But then he would have seen it, right? He would have seen it before it happened.
Right.
So, like, at what point did he find out that Lyndon was going to die? And did he
probably
decide
knew the whole time? And he was.
Then why even try? If you're a guy that's like, no, this needs to happen. Determinism is real. This is going to play out how it's going to play out.
Because
then,
he's still a victim of his emotions.
Yeah,
like Katie.
He's still upset about.
Katie's just as determined that everything was determined.
Yeah.
And still ends up crying when she sees it all happen, getting emotional. She's still a victim of her own emotions. So is Stuart.
Yeah, I guess, but I think that if you're of the mindset that like if I saw what was determined to happen not happen and then I made it happen, then why could you not say, well, I saw Lyndon die. I don't want that to happen. Why can't I stop it? Why didn't he make an attempt to stop anything else that happened before that?
Because,
he
wasn't strong enough to do it at that time.
And maybe just seeing what Katie did showed him that determinism isn't so real, so then he could maybe make that move where he wouldn't have before. He saw
seeing her talk Lyndon off.
No, I mean seeing Lily throw the gun away.
Okay.
I feel like maybe that in his mind.
So maybe he did have the realization that everything wasn't deterministic, but he decided that he was going to get payback. If this is the case, then I'm going to...
But then why say that this is how it's supposed to happen? Maybe he didn't mean because determinism. Maybe he just meant because Forrest deserves it. Because
interesting thought.
Because Forrest shouldn't be able to have this.
We need to rewatch this.
I know. See, this is why when we started the discussion, we went back and we said we want to watch it again because there's so many. Like you get so caught up in the plot unfolding that you don't look for the little hints and further little explanations that might be hidden in there.
Okay. How do you feel about... Oh, man. I don't understand how it is that we got this far into this discussion and we didn't touch on Kenton at all. And we haven't touched on Jamie at all. And how about the biggest freaking plot twist in my mind in the whole freaking show? Because... I saw a lot of this stuff coming, surprisingly. Like, there was... Okay.
You got a cigarette, man? Or is that... Yeah.
Dude, okay, so... Okay, I didn't see a lot of this coming. But there's a good portion where you're like, there's kind of a predictable kind of wave. You know what I mean? Kind of a little... But this one took me for a loop, man. The bum... on the porch the whole freaking time that you're just dismissing as like he's a loon bag. Even when he confronts Kenton, you're like, he's just a crazy freaking homeless guy.
Yeah.
He's like out of his mind.
And the whole time I'm watching it, I feel like I was like, man, this homeless guy is rather annoying.
Yeah.
And
what has he got to do with anything?
I thought that they literally just wrote him into the story so that he could keep tabs on their place, and like whenever she showed up, he could be like, hey man, this is happening or whatever, like as a way to
I actually thought it was kind of just that he was written in the story as like a political thing. That's what I thought it was. It was just a look, homeless people. That's what I thought it was.
Yeah, it could be like the juxtaposition between like the rich people in Silicon Valley and the people that work there, right, and then this guy living on their front porch kind of.
I thought that was the angle.
Yeah.
And then here Kenton tells Forrest and Katie, look, if this stuff comes back to me, I will do what I have to do.
Yeah, he basically just tells him, like, yo, I'll kill you if I need to.
I'm going to take care of business. And so he does. He goes to Lily's place, kills freaking Jamie, and then, surprise, he's about to kill Lily. Like, Lily hits him in the face with the lamp or whatever it was that she hit him with.
They stretch out. He's strangling her on the bed, and they stretch that out for so many seconds. And you're just waiting.
It's a little bit uncomfortable.
Oh, man. I was just, when is it going to happen? You're just waiting for something to stop him. Because the deterministic nature of the show means that you haven't seen her do the whole crawl that they kind of get at. So you know that she gets out of it. But it keeps happening. And
then the homeless guy wraps something around Kenton's neck and starts counting in Russian. And you're like, what the what?
Yeah, I basically jumped off the couch. I was like, no way.
I did. I jumped up. What? Honest to goodness, I jumped up in the middle. I was watching it over my lunch break at work and just jumped off my freaking chair. What?
That's amazing. I'm so happy you watched it at work.
Yeah. I have to fit it in somewhere.
So
this show is rife with moments like that. Where you're like, just these oh man moments, or these they're not gonna do this, or where the hell did that come from moments throughout.
Well, the first one being whenever they're like, Sergei's a Russian spy.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, yeah, that's what they're going to tell people or whatever. That's what they'll tell Katie to try to get her to shut up about it. And then he really was a Russian spy. And, like when Kenton's talking to them and you think he's just like, you think he's just being like kind of racist because he's like, oh, a Russian and a Chinese person living together. Like, why would I have to worry about that and stuff like that?
He's like your you just think he's like a security guard and he's kind of like stereotypically just a racist person.
Yeah. And then realistically, like, no, actually Sergei totally was a Russian spy. And yeah, so of course that's why he thinks that they're spies. No, I thought that was brilliant because like it actually ended up becoming like a big thing in the whole plot of the show. And I thought it was just going to be a dupe. I thought it was just going to be like this frustrating thing that like Lily was just going to believe, and that wasn't going to be the case. And then no, actually they worked it in to be part of the plot where he actually was a Russian spy, and then she works with the other Russian guy.
I actually how would things have gone if she would have actually listened to that other guy, to his handler? That's what I wonder. Like, how would the show be different if she would have been like, okay, I'll spy for you?
It couldn't have been different. It was determined, Joe.
Well, no, I think it would have just made a lot shorter show because Forrest and Katie would be like, okay, we just have to kill her too.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that wouldn't be interesting at all.
That's another thing that I never really understood is like why they didn't just kill her the whole time. Because if they were just going to kill Sergei, why not kill her? And I guess I'm still a little fuzzy on which point they actually started looking into the future. Because I don't feel like at the start of the show they were looking into the future, right?
I don't think so either. I don't know at what point they... I don't think they can until after Lyndon puts in the stuff. He puts in his equation and makes it so that they can actually see it clearly.
Okay.
At that point, they can look forward.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first point where they can actually see into the future. Now, I'm not sure where that falls
In the episodes.
Yeah, so I'm like, this is part of why we have to rewatch.
Yeah.
Because now we have information we didn't have before. But if they don't kill Lily, I think, I'm not sure. I think at first they're just hoping that they can write off Sergey. Okay.
Yeah.
They're hoping they can get away with it. And by the time they're like, okay, we need to get rid of her, they can't anymore because they've looked into the future now. This is just me going back trying to remember where
I
that
think
falls
I
in the
think you're
timeline.
right, yeah.
Yeah, they're like, okay, she is a problem, but now we know she has to live.
Right, and you don't see how she dies, so you don't know if you do it or not, right?
Right.
Until they do see that she dies, but also that's how Forrest dies, and that's all the farther they can see. So at that point, they're
and they even say it at the end. They're like, "You're special. There's something you do that we can't see." So they're scientists. They want to see where it goes. They want to see what she ends up doing.
I know, but okay, I love the show, but also I didn't like how they said that the reason that she was special is because she was like, nah, fuck that. And she made her own decisions. Like, come on, dude. She's not the only person in the universe that makes their own decisions and says, no, you're wrong.
But they didn't know that's what it was. They didn't know what it was that she was going to do that was special. They just knew that for some reason they couldn't see beyond this point.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. God, the show. So good. So many questions.
Yes.
There's just so much. Yeah, I can't wait to watch the show again.
I think hang
on. Before we need to talk about Jamie. Because I love that character. He was like, I could relate so much to him just because of like everybody had their trauma and Jamie's trauma was Lily. And then
so for you, the ending had to have been amazing for you, if that's how you feel.
Oh, yeah, that they both ended up together.
That she went up to him and was like, thought about it and she's like, I made a mistake leaving this guy.
I don't know because I can't tell if she would have stayed with Sergey had the whole thing after she was basically resurrected in the program. Mm-hmm. I don't know if Sergey would have been like, oh, what program? There's no program. If she would have just went with Sergey still, or if she needed to see him say, "What? Don't look at my Sudoku thing. It's just a game." Like,
I think that was just a solidifying moment. I think she would have ended up with Jamie anyway. Mm-hmm. The thing is, it was like her. Do I want to be with a liar? Mm-hmm. Who's hiding these things from me? It doesn't matter what he's doing. He feels the need to hide things from me.
Well, and also at that point, she probably still didn't realize if she had, like you were saying, if she had dreamed the whole thing.
Right.
Because everything still played out the same. Everything still looked the same. She snaps back into reality and she's there with Sergey.
That's the first moment where she does something that differentiates from the old moments.
Right.
And he solidifies that what she had seen before was the truth.
Right, that he is a Russian spy.
And at that point, I can be with this guy who's hiding this whole part of his huge part of his life from me, or I can be with Jamie who was with me through all of this. You know, if you've already seen the future of what you guys had gone through, and I mean, who would you choose?
Well, and I also think if she would have woken up in this new reality and Sergey wouldn't have had the app on his phone, I still feel like she would have reached out to Jamie.
At least to tell him
even
something.
If she was still with Sergey.
Yeah.
You know, if she was like, oh, the world's different, but Sergey's not a bad guy, and she decided to stay with him, I feel like she would have still reached out to Jamie just based on still having those memories and stuff. But maybe not, because if she didn't see that devs didn't exist or all that stuff, maybe I don't know.
I feel like you're right. I think she would have at least said something because she realized how much pain she had caused him.
But it was kind of bittersweet because they met again at the end of the show, and it was like, oh, Jamie and Lily are together, but at the same time it felt kind of hollow because it's like, but he's just a simulation. He didn't really get to live it. He's still dead in actual reality. You know, he still got capped 3 times to death in her apartment, And then they just like drag his bloody ass into her bedroom. And that's where he ended up. He was just dead in a bedroom with Kenton.
I actually forgot that he's dead in the real world.
Oh, yeah.
But so that means that he was back alive again in the simulation too. Isn't that interesting?
Well, yeah, because I mean, it's still a simulation for them. Like theirs are the only, her and Forrest are the only ones whose subconscious was actually transported into.
So it's not even Jamie. It's just Lily and Forrest in everyone else's just computer.
Yeah, exactly. It's a completely different rendition of the universe. It's a part of the multiverse that they get put into that doesn't have devs, and that none of this stuff actually happens.
Okay. Why is it what is it that you like so much about Jamie?
Because he went through. I feel like he had a great character arc where, you know, when you first meet him, he's like, "Screw you, dude. Like, I'm not going to help you." And that's exactly how I probably would have reacted if somebody was like, "Yo, sir, something's happening with my Russian boyfriend where he's a spy, and I need your help. I need you to do a thing after I ripped your heart out and stomped on it. I need to come to you out of the blue with some ridiculous premise and need to ask for your help."
And get your ass beat up in a bathtub.
Yeah, like there were so many chances where he could have just been like, "No." And
I was expecting him to be done after that. That whole Kenton thing, I was like, that's it. He's out.
And then he calls his family and he's like, "Hey, yeah, there's hackers or something, and they don't want anybody coming after the family, so you guys go into hiding." And then he just fully commits.
Not what I was expecting.
But that's what I mean. Like, he had such a good arc. He changed so much. He changed
Because
from being hurt.
All it was him still being a sucker for the same girl, which I've been that guy.
Yeah, I think that's why I can relate to it. Kind of, is, you know, you've all been. I've been somebody that still carries a candle for somebody, even after they've hurt you.
Yeah, me too, buddy.
And you've also been drawn back in by that person.
Now you're laying down on my couch. Hey, tell me about it. No, I'm just...
This is a really awkward couch. Why do I have to bend over this couch?
Alrighty. So I think with that.
Wait,
no, there's more.
One more thing.
Okay.
We've talked about every other main character except Kenton.
Fair enough.
Real quick, we'll talk about Kenton. How did you like him as a bad guy?
I actually, as a bad guy, I liked him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, coming off of Better Call Saul, as I have, which has to be something else we talk about at some point.
Yep. Okay.
Coming off of Better Call Saul, I kind of viewed his character as, we need to have a mic.
Are you still talking about that? Or are you still watching that show right now? Is that still premiering? I mean, are new episodes
not watching
still
it
coming?
on TV. I watch it on Netflix, so where I am right now is the end of season 4. I've already seen.
But you haven't started any season 5. Okay.
I don't know if there is season 5 out right now.
Oh, it's out right now.
Yeah, I'm not watching any because I don't have TV.
Okay.
I'm all streaming.
All digital. Okay.
Yeah. But after coming off of that, it's like Kenton's character is Mike. I mean, not quite. He's different.
But he's the fixer.
Yeah, he's the I got this. I'm calm. I can handle myself. I know things and I can do things, and I'm calm and cool while I do them, which is very much just Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like he was very much like, I get paid to do a job. I'm going to do this job, but also, like, if you put me in danger,
I'm going to handle it.
I will do what I need to do. Much in the way that Mike's like, I get paid to do this job. I'll do the job to the best of my ability, but if it threatens me or my family,
I'm going to make sure I handle it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a nice parallel, actually. I didn't really... But Mike's so much more infinitely likable than Kenton.
And he's way more in control. Mike is like, I got this.
I was so physically upset when Kenton lived and killed that Russian. Whenever they got in that fight, that struggle in that parking garage.
Oh, you mean okay. Oh, back when you first.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that pissed me off.
I was so hoping for Kenton to die there, and of course he didn't.
Yeah, no, I thought he was going to die.
But I mean, that happens fairly early in the show, and I already hated him. So they did a really good job at making a villain that you hate.
He is very hateable. But at the same time, there's something about him. Is there not something about him that's like lovable? Or is that just me?
No, I feel like any lovable part of him was actually just a ruse.
Really?
Yeah, I felt like he was a total sociopath, and that everything that he did was self-preservation, and everything was just like... He was kind of matter-of-fact in the way that he explained things.
I guess I'm just a rube.
Well, when he's talking to Lily, he's very much like, look, I don't want to be a jerk or whatever, but we're like on this ledge and you're outside of my window and we're like 3 stories up and there's a bunch of important people down there. So like when he's trying to get stuff done, he's very matter of fact about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, his entire existence is lying. And like when he goes in and he pays that doctor to basically say what he wants. Oh,
he's a scummy scumbag.
Oh man,
for sure.
I hated him.
But there's like,
and that's the funny part is he's like the stand-in antagonist for Forrest. And whereas I could relate to Forrest.
They make it so that at first you're like, that Forrest guy, he's a rotten evil son of a bitch, and then you like somehow they transfer your hate
to Kenton, yeah.
That is a good point.
I just didn't because I could understand why Forrest was the way he was, and with Kenton he was just bad. They didn't show a reason for why he was willing to go kill these people or do whatever he needed to do,
except that I'm the stereotypical ex-military attack dog.
Right. So I didn't feel anything for him, and I don't think I was supposed to.
No, I think his character is pretty one note.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and I don't know if it was.
Whereas like Mike is going back to Better Call Saul. Mike is like so well-rounded a character. Like, he's lovable, and there's so many things about him. Like he is anything but one note.
Well, Mike has a much more fleshed out motivation than Kenton.
I mean, it's a much more realized universe between
5 seasons of a show instead of 8 episodes.
Well, yeah, I mean, but he's not even just there. It's also Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
So he's got a lot of background to get into. And that's another reason why we have to do that a Better Call Saul one, because it's the universe is that as Better Call Saul extends toward Breaking Bad, you go, when is it going to get to the point where everything's concurrent? Because it's getting there.
It's like the prequels. It's the prequel sequel. There's the prequel trilogy in Star Wars, where you're just like waiting for it to get there, and then they get there.
Only actually good.
Yeah. If it was actually a good.
Okay. I think with that, then, we are all done with our devs talk. We're going to go back and we're going to rewatch it. Don't worry, we're not going to talk about it again. I think we...
Yeah, I think we covered pretty much... We went through the story, we went through the biggest twists and turns, we went through the characters, all that stuff. Needless to say, closing thoughts, highly, highly enjoyable, definitely watchable. It's 8 episodes, they're an hour each. It's short, but it's riveting the entire way through. Atmosphere's great, soundtrack's great, performances are great. I don't really see anything that you wouldn't enjoy, really.
If you had to give devs a number review, 1 to 10, what would it be? I know this is on the spot.
I mean, I would want to give it like an 8 or a 9.
I was thinking 8.5.
Because I think that some of the ideas that they introduce aren't entirely unique.
I agree.
I think that they're ideas that have been explored. I got into a conversation with a guy that I work with who he was a philosophy major in college, like way back.
Yeah.
And he was like, even in the 70s, whenever I was in college or whatever, we talked about philosophy that was basically exactly what this show talks about. So it's derived from ideas that already exist, and I've already seen them in other media, but I think that it does this so well. As an overall package, I think it's just so well done.
Yeah, it's certainly not a new idea.
It's like we talk video games a ton, right? Obviously, and it's much in the same way that like The Last of Us is just another zombie movie or just another zombie story that you've seen done before. It does it so well. It's so perfectly executed.
The Last of Us is just that's actually a really good parallel. There's a million zombie games, a million zombie movies, but The Last of Us does the concepts in a way that's and does everything to such an artistic degree.
It takes familiar things and recontextualizes them and presents them to you in such a different, relatable, grounded way. And I feel like Devs does the very same thing where it's explaining to you all these high concepts and also dealing with like bleeding edge technology and quantum computing, but yet it doesn't get like bogged down in the minutia of that stuff that would be boring and hard to understand for everybody. It's more of a thriller, emotional kind of character study. And I think that's why it succeeds for me.
I agree. I agree with your assessment. It's nothing new, but they do it to the artistic level to which they achieve. They do it. I want to not say that.
No. It's like if you like rode bikes professionally, and then they came out with this new bike, and you show it to your friend, and they're like, "Dude, it looks just like your old bike," but you're like, yeah, but what they've done with this bike is so different, and it might not seem that different because it might just look like every other bike, but these little things that they've tweaked here and there make this huge difference.
Quality of life changes.
Yeah, and I feel like that's you can say the same thing about like Devs, where yeah, you've probably heard these big heady themes before, and
it's not the themes that are important. It's all the characters and the things that happen. You're so invested with the characters and the way the things happen.
Yeah, if you replaced the actors with other people, I don't know if it would be just as good. If you change the music at all, I don't know if it would be good. If you change the visuals, I don't know. But all those things coming together is just...
I actually think that Allison Pill and Nick Offerman make this show for me. I'll be honest about that.
And I didn't think that would be the case.
Neither did I.
At least with Allison Pill, like when her character shows up at first, you have no idea how integral she's going to be.
Yeah.
And then she just grows and grows to be more complex, and I ended up kind of liking her by the end because she finally stopped being this untouchable, like distant person. You see some emotions from her and stuff like that. So,
all right. I think that's a wrap.
Well, no, I gave my score. What's your score?
Oh, I said 8.5.
8.5.
I give it an 8.5. Definitely.
All right.
It's fantastical. It's rewatchable. I'm tempted to give it higher than that, but I want to say that's just because it's so recent.
Right. Yeah.
And if I looked back, I'm imagining if I look back a year from now at the show, how would I feel about it?
Yeah, I said an 8 specifically because I think that when I get more removed from it, I would give it probably that score.
Yeah.
But
if I had to judge it right now, I'm like a big part of me is going 10.
Right.
But it's like, no, calm down. 8.5.
But that's our devs talk, our spoiler cast review gobbledygook. And if you've seen it, let us know what you thought. Let us know what you think of our thoughts on it. If you haven't seen it, we hope that our discussion has maybe influenced you to go out and see it, and maybe you can come back and tell us what you think after you watch it. Again, you can send your questions, suggestions, and corrections to our email at nonsensorypod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at nonsensory1, and you can like us on Facebook at nonsensory. You can also find us on iTunes and Spotify, as well as YouTube. Just search Nonsensory Podcast.
We love you all. Be easy.
And don't get lost in the machine.